When my husband, who I will call EMTT, egotistical married trader type, said those words, I didn't cry. Crying was out of my corporate playbook. I just sat up in our ridiculously expensive king-sized bed, checked the 6:15 a.m. clock, and let him finish organizing his emotional departure speech with the aggressive precision he usually reserved for his architectural blueprints. 7 years. That's how long I'd spent making myself smaller so his success could look bigger. I'm going to stay at Marcus's place for a few days, he said, not meeting my eyes as he clipped a black designer shirt into his suitcase. I need space to think about whether this is really what I want. I didn't ask what this was, the apartment, me, the 7 years we supposedly shared. I knew. The answer was in the words he let drop, words marinated in the entitlement he'd been marinating in since his recent promotion. You're a great person, Cora, but my friends have been asking questions. Why I'm with someone who doesn't really have ambitions. Someone who is just comfortable, not impressive. The word landed like a tiny, toxic slap, unremarkable. It was the final confirmation of a lie he'd been living. The lie that was the foundation of our entire marriage. It had stuck with him since their dinner last night, a comment from his colleague, Sienna. She said I was too remarkable to be with someone unremarkable, he finished, zipping the bag. And I think she's right. I met the expectant, wounded look on his face. He was waiting for my tears. Waiting for me to beg the breadwinner to stay. What he got instead was a calm question. Before you go to Marcus's place to figure things out, I need to tell you what I've actually been doing for the last 3 years while you thought I was just comfortable and unremarkable. He put the suitcase down, annoyance clearly visible. Cora, this really isn't the time for a discussion of your freelance schedule. My company was just acquired for $12.7 million. He froze. His mind, the brilliant architect's mind that could map complex stress loads in a matter of seconds, visibly stuttered. $12.7 million. The number stood there, too huge, too blunt to fit the narrative of the supportive, unassuming wife he had created. I let the silence hang so he could sit in the new reality. So, please, I continued. Take all the extra time you need at Marcus's place to find someone more impressive. While you're doing that, I'll be finalizing the guest list for your birthday dinner. Your friends, of course, are all invited. And EMTT? He turned abruptly, jaw slack. The lease to this apartment has been in my name since before we married. So, you can take absolutely all the time you need. Just not here. The silence that followed was, quite literally, the most satisfying sound I had heard in 9 years. My company, Ashford Chin Crisis Management, didn't appear out of thin air. My partner, Maya Chin, and I built it in the 3 years EMTT was busy being proud of his architecture firm promotion. We handled disasters. Data breaches, PR implosions, scandals so messy the big corporate firms wouldn't touch them. We were discreet, we were crushing, and we were terrifyingly effective. While EMTT was doing networking dinners hoping to secure a $250,000 project, Mia and I were quietly billing 7-figure clients across 6 countries. I revealed the multi-million-dollar truth to him on Monday. By Friday, I was having my first meeting with my lawyer, Helen Voss, in her glass-walled office high above the financial district. This is highly enjoyable, Cora, Helen said, sifting through the massive stack of documentation I'd brought, rent receipts, expense reports, emails. Usually, I'm arguing for the value of a client's non-financial contributions, childcare, emotional labor. You, inversely, have 7 years of detailed financial evidence, but need to prove that you built the financial muscle. She laid out the simple fact: California is a community property state. Without proper documentation, my multi-million-dollar business, started during the marriage, could be subject to a 50-50 split that would give EMTT a claim to half of my fortune. And I knew EMTT would hire a ruthless lawyer the minute he grasped the magnitude of what I had done. But I was prepared. The apartment, acquired before marriage. Lease never legally changed to include him. Cora's separate property. The business, Ashford Chin All Startup Capital, came solely from my personal, premarital savings. EMTT made zero financial or labor contribution, and didn't even know it existed. Strong argument for separate property. The support, more importantly, I had a paper trail that showed the unremarkable wife had subsidized the remarkable husband for almost our entire marriage. I presented lease payments for 2 years while he interned, $50,000 paid. A loan for his fancy architecture camera equipment, $15,000. The quiet covering of his salary shortfall for 18 months after his firm's restructuring. I moved funds from my business account to his joint account so he wouldn't feel embarrassed. He's going to claim emotional support and networking, Helen advised, a pencil tapping lightly against her pad. He never asked about my work in 7 years, I replied calmly. He just assumed. No emotional support was ever required. Helen leaned back, a small smile finally cracking her severe composure. Excellent. We'll have everything ready by the end of next week. In the meantime, change the locks, change our shared passwords, and enjoy your birthday dinner planning. It's what he deserves. The week that followed was filled with his desperate text messages. The progression was predictable. Day 1, anger. How could you humiliate me with that acquisition news? You set this up. This is irrational. Day 3, confusion. I don't understand, Cora. You never used any of this money on us. Can we at least talk like adults? Day 5, bargaining. I messed up. I know I did. But 7 years has to count for something. He ended the marriage. I was just stressed. Please. Just tell me what you want. Day 7, fear. Marcus says I should give you space, but I can't live like this. Are you seeing a lawyer? Please just tell me the damage. I gave him the gift of silence, the exact same silence he had always given me about my own life. I did not reply to a single message. I used the quiet time to coordinate with Jordan McNelt, my PR specialist, finalizing the massive media rollout for the acquisition. The story goes live at 11 p.m. Saturday night, Jordan confirmed on the Friday before the dinner. That gives you and your friends enough time to finish dessert. By Sunday morning, your faces are everywhere. The hook is too good. 2 women built an 8-figure company while everyone was looking the other way. No one will be talking about EMTT, only about your success. Saturday, 8 p.m. Atelier Rousseau. Michelin starred, 3-month wait list. The restaurant EMTT used to stare at from the street, promising himself we would go someday when he really made it. I arrived at 7:55 p.m., looking sharp in a midnight blue silk dress, the kind that whispers authority without shouting. Colette, the maitre d', seated me in an exclusive semi-private dining room with a table set for 12. Most importantly, discreetly in the corner, a presentation screen and projector. The guests arrived in staggered groups. Marcus and Devon, university friends, Harper, his eager work peer, and finally, at 8 p.m. sharp, Sienna, the friend whose unremarkable comment had set this all in motion. She was tall, expensive-looking, and exuded the kind of brittle arrogance that my acquisition had just purchased the right to destroy. Then EMTT walked in. He saw his friends, then the giant table, then me at the head. Confusion melted into hope, then into a distinct current of unease. He walked over. Cora, what is this? I thought we were going to talk. Why are they all here? It's your birthday dinner, I said, rising to meet the gaze of the arrogant man who had just packed his bag to leave me. I invited the very people whose opinions mattered too much for you to ever see my 7 years of devotion. They deserve to be here when you learn exactly how remarkable I am. He went ghost white. Marcus and Devon looked away. Sienna adjusted her collar. Harper stared at EMTT with the controlled displeasure of a colleague who has just realized her department head is an absolute idiot. We sat down. Colette poured the champagne. The room was absolutely silent. 2 weeks ago, I began, my voice perfectly level. EMTT's friends wisely told him I was not remarkable enough. He was right to take their counsel. My fault was not that I was unremarkable, but that I played the role of the invisible, supportive wife for too long. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the screen in the corner, and the light came up, projecting a clean, professional slide onto the wall. Ashford CH and Chris is MANAGement, Strategic Growth Through Crisis. I spent the next 10 minutes giving the most detailed, data-driven presentation of my entire professional life. My turnover. My clientele. Maya's skill at technical breaches. All leading to the culminating slide, the 12.7 million wire transfer confirmation hitting my personal account the same morning. I watched their faces. Sienna was crying silently, shame plastered across her expensive makeup. Marcus had his head in his hands. EMTT was simply paralyzed, watching his simple life partner shatter his entire self-perception and social currency, right in front of his audience. Then I advanced to the next set of slides, the receipts. The receipts showed the apartment lease, the checks covering his salary deficits, the $15,000 loan for his professional camera, the $8,000 website design. Everything he used to build his image, all paid for by the woman he said was unremarkable. I didn't keep score, I said quietly, looking directly at him. I thought this was partnership. I was supporting the man I thought I loved until he was ready for a relationship with equals. But looking at these numbers now, I realize I was simply subsidizing your ego, funding the fiction that you were the successful one. I raised my champagne glass. I paid for this dinner. I paused, looking around the faces of the shocked guests. Every course, every wine pairing, every second of awkward silence. I looked at EMTT, his face completely gray. Consider this a severance package, complete with the final public word. You all get a $400 per person tasting menu, courtesy of who you thought you knew. To finding better, I said, drinking the excellent champagne. And may you all eventually learn the difference between what's remarkable and what is just visible. I set the glass down with a single, firm click that sounded like the final word in an argument that had been raging for 7 years. I walked out without looking back. My phone was dead silence until 4:17 a.m. Then it buzzed, an unknown number. Please answer, a woman's voice sobbed frantically. Something happened tonight, and it's about you. It was Sienna. She told me what I already knew. The whole thing imploded on the sidewalk. Harper, the only sensible one, I realized, had found the 11 p.m. press release, then stared at EMTT with utter disgust, calling him out for taking his wife's support while calling her no one. The final blow came from Marcus, his best friend. Did you ever once ask your wife what she was really building? He couldn't answer. He eventually broke down crying right there on the street. Is that why you're calling? I asked her, my voice clear and clinical. To give me updates on my ex-husband's emotional trauma? No, she managed through sobs. I'm calling because I need you to know we were wrong. So completely, devastatingly wrong about you. Your story is everywhere. People are calling you a hero. I let her cry. I checked my own phone. Jordan had done his work, the headlines were wall to wall. Forbes, the invisible CEOs. TechCrunch, secret founder's marriage ends in public acquisition reveal. Is there any chance for forgiveness? Sienna whispered. He's been texting everyone, saying he understands now. I walked to the window, the sun just beginning to lighten the sky over San Francisco. If he really learned, Sienna, he didn't change. He got caught, I said calmly. And I don't want to be a test case for his transformation. It was over the moment he packed that suitcase. Was it revenge? I took a deep breath. Revenge requires wanting suffering. I didn't want him to suffer. I just wanted people to stop living in his comfortable fiction. I wanted the truth to be visible. The next few months were a blur, lawyer meetings with Helen Voss, CNN interviews, the building of a new, massive office space that overlooked the bay. EMTT's high-priced aggressive lawyer tried to frame me as vindictive and calculating, which Helen and I found highly amusing, but my paper trail of financial support, the receipts, made his case fall flat. 8 months later, I gave my first international keynote speech at a major tech conference. After the huge applause, a young woman approached me backstage. Her boyfriend told her she should halt her startup and support his. Ask yourself one question, I told her, my own lesson's hard one. Does being with him make you feel bigger or smaller? Does it expand your sense of what's possible or contract it? The woman nodded, her eyes bright with sudden fire. Contract, she said. I'm breaking up with him tonight. I felt simple, pure satisfaction. I had not been saved by a man. The day EMTT looked in my eyes and called me unremarkable, I was already a multimillionaire CEO. He'd been looking directly at a lighthouse and complaining he couldn't see the tiny candle. He gave me permission to stop performing, stop shrinking, stop asking for permission to be extraordinary. I walked out of that conference, a confident, unapologetic CEO in the open daylight. The quiet revolution, from being invisible to undeniably, unforgettably visible, turned out to be the most remarkable thing of all.